potential for a bit of rain, so take one of those little thin, like, wind jacket things out. You know what I mean, with the hood. Just be careful, everybody. Just get ready for it. It's going to be a great day. Good morning, everybody. Great to start my week with you, as ever. This is Breakfast on BBC Radio London. As mentioned, the government wants to change what's on the menu in schools to tackle childhood obesity and tooth decay. More fruit, vegetables and whole grains will now be served, and deep fried food will be banned, with sugary treats cut back. The new school food standards will also include a new breakfast plan to ensure every child starts the day in a healthier way. 70 schools across London are opening new free breakfast clubs, each feeding feeding 17,000 youngsters across the capital. I'm joined by Marino, Charalambous, the CEO of the North Star Community Trust, which manages 4 primary and secondary schools in North London. Marino, very, very good to welcome you to breakfast this Monday morning. Good morning to you. First off, straight off the bat, what do you make of the government's plans being rolled out?
Good morning, and thank you for having me today. I think it's a great idea by the government. It's fantastic that children have a good start to the day. Healthy breakfast, ready to start the day. Calm, full of energy and ready to learn. So I think it's a really good initiative.
I mean, what kind of difference do you think this is going to make to your schools in your community trust?
For our schools, our breakfast clubs are already quite popular. So the fact that the government is funding more places is going to be, a really big incentive for working families to get their children to school early. And then those children will be with their friends, having breakfast, calm, on time. There isn't that sort of everyday stress that families go through every day. And for our trust, it's really key that our schools are at the heart of their community. So we like to do as much as we can for our families and our children.
I mean, can schools afford to make these changes? There are plans to get them to publish menus online. Well, what's it going to do for budgets in terms of getting whole foods in there rather than processed foods?
It is a challenge. I'm not going to lie about that, but it's the right thing to do. I think with any new initiative, there's always going to be, the initial start's going to be more difficult than once you've had a bit of time to experience what children are preferring to eat, the cost of foods and which suppliers to use. We have our own in-house catering, so we're quite experienced at getting the costs down to an affordable amount for our schools. But I think cost shouldn't be the only barrier here. It's really important that working families are given the best chance of success for their children. We serve a very, very disadvantaged community, and we find ways of saving money to give our children everything they need to be successful.
Have school dinners evolved in a negative way because of that, because of saving money, because of advent in food technology, because of processed foods coming in? You talk to myself, you talk to my colleagues, you talk to listeners, and they're talking about, meat and 2 veg back in the 70s and 80s and 90s in school, custard being on the menu every day, random carrots. I mean, we had Michael text in who said, there's just piles of carrots everywhere. I remember that. Luminous carrots in primary school. Has processed food and super processed food taken over?
It's a real challenge. That's why we have in-house catering, because I think if you're driven just by cost, then it's easy to choose those options just from a budgetary perspective. But I think for us, it's always about putting the child first. And there are really cost-effective options, as long as that's your objective, making sure that children are getting the right meal every day, but not this sort of highly processed food that isn't going to do them any good. We've seen also the impact of high sugar foods and highly processed foods to their health, with dental health and obesity and things like that. So we work really, really hard with the NHS as well to really promote healthy eating.
It's interesting. We're actually going to be hearing from my niece later on in the programme. She's very, very kindly sent us a voice note on her first day back at school. So can't wait to hear from that. My cousin has actually backed up and said, morning, that's her opinion. Obviously, we'll hear her opinion in a bit. But she says, I find that school dinners don't give healthy options at all. Portion sizes are too small as kids get hungry in the afternoon. The first thing my daughter asks for is afternoon snacks. Now, that's an interesting one, afternoon snacks. What about kids going to corner shops? Kids going to chicken shops? For me, in my day, it was $1.99, 2-piece chicken and chips, or there was a famous burger chain that rhymes with hams that used to do 2 for 2. 2 chicken strip burgers, 2 chips, £2. Good night, God bless. It was the best thing on earth. If you're feeding the kids one thing at school, that's fine. If they don't like it, they're going to spend their money on the way in and on their way out.
Yeah, that is very true, and especially as children get older and they're at secondary school, and that's a real challenge. I think every school in the country is facing that challenge. Trying to convince teenagers that they should be eating healthily all the time is a big process, and that's, we work hard on that as well. And it's got to be the why. Why should I listen to you? Why should I not have, like you said, 2 pieces of chicken and chips? And that's the hard part. We've got to work really hard to do that in schools, and we do. It's part of their development, part of understanding that this is part of their long-term health, not just for the short term. But yeah, it's a challenge. It's not something that I think anyone's really mastered.
Marino, really looking forward to seeing how it's rolled out at your school and in your federation. So thank you for joining us this morning. Really do appreciate it. That is Marino Charalambous, the CEO of the North Star Community Trust, this Monday morning on Breakfast on BBC Radio London 8:14. Going to be reading some of your messages out shortly. Get in touch with us this morning. If you're a parent, 0800 731 2000.